All opinions expressed on any program are those of the producer and are persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of DCTV. All producers and guests appearing on programs provide information and opinions based on information they consider to be reliable. DCTV does not affirm the completeness and accuracy. All DCTV members agree to adhere to DCTV's Statement of Compliance and are participants in a community medium forum where they're exercising their freedom of speech.
Good evening. I'm your host, Karen Hudis. Welcome to this series on the network of global corporate control. Thanks to DCTV, to Carmen Stanley, Project Director, to Maurice Jackson, Studio Director, and Cruchet Starnes, Audio and Prompter. Today's segment is called Taking Our World Back Peacefully and with Love, and it's pre-recorded. This series tells people that they and everybody else, except for a critical mass, have been duped about basic fundamentals by a domineering world elite. The closing of each segment usually features the upbeat message that a future without this corruption is the most likely scenario. Last week, Tim Burton commented, "Nobody can stop what's coming." People have had enough. We're taking back our world peacefully and with love. There's no real alternative. The only other alternative is World War III and extinction. We're at a fork in the road. The chances we make a peaceful transition are greater than 90%, according to the accurate power transition model from the United States National War College. YouTube does what it can to detract from my message through comments from its sock puppets that YouTube usually places at the beginning of the comments section. You remember, a sock puppet is a special purpose account that tries to convince people that a real person is making the comment. YouTube erases many of my comments and hides all of them behind View More Comments buttons. YouTube's censorship backfires by making people curious to see what the banking cartel is trying to hide. Jose Rizal's Gift of Love, it's about how the world's assets are there to end the corruption and the world's money. We have a right to these assets and to end this corruption. Last week, the Cabal repeated the lie that the Federal Reserve stole the Ukraine's gold. The Cabal told this same lie 5 years ago. I caught the Fed telling this same lie by using a wayback function on the internet. The Fed has no gold, neither the Ukraine nor anybody else. This same false story appeared on the internet 5 years ago. Sanskrit replied to me, "Do you have any information on Ukraine's gold reserves secretly flown out and confiscated by the New York Federal Reserve? Thank you." The world's monetary gold reserves are in the global debt facility and are to be exchanged for currency out of gold. There's a link to the offers that are to be negotiated by monetary agreements with mints in each country. Here is my comment to the false story 5 years ago, and I made that comment on the 12th of March, 2014. Ukraine, excuse me, could you scroll back? It runs a little too fast for me. Ukraine gold reserves flown U.S. Fed safekeeping. Please watch. That's the link, and you can see the article. This story is most certainly not true. The world's gold is in the global debt facility, waiting for people to wake up and mint it into gold coin to replace their paper currencies. The fractional reserve fiat currencies are about to crash and plunge the world back into the dark ages. And now that we know that there's gold, I don't think we're going to have that scenario. And then I have a link telling people where they can see more. And then, to add insult to injury, I even caught the doofuses and the black nobility breaking the link to my poster about John F. Kennedy's signature of the Green-Hilton Agreement. And you can see what the black nobility was trying to hide. This inspired Svetlana to call me. She was very excited to learn how aware the United States military and others in the United States are. We posted a joint comment on the internet. Svetlana's letter to me and my correspondence with the Ukrainian embassy in Washington are at the end of the teleprompter, and what I wrote to Svetlana. This is in response to your email. I'm going to remove identifying details and put it out in my social media. I'm not going to meet with you. There are too many unmet demands on my time. It's important for you to work together with your people. If you can convince enough of you to set up a system to verify the contact information for the people in the Ukraine, it will be important to begin exchanging your paper currency for currency issued by the central bank in the Ukraine, for bills to be issued by a mint, and this could be a private mint so long as you have robust systems in place. Ultimately, the currency issued by this mint is going to be exchanged for aurum. That's bills that are envelopes with gold in them. In the meantime, all of your local villages in the Ukraine should be issuing local currency. These decentralized villages are going to form the building blocks for restoring your constitution. I'm attaching a file with further information on how to issue local currencies. The local communities can issue local currencies any way they want. It's their barter system. And then I signed the letter. And Sanskrit had tweeted this. Thank you, Ms. Hudis. The Ukrainian government is not representing the citizens of the Ukraine. Today, the Ukrainian state is controlled by a criminal organization that has assigned the names and powers of state bodies and services, courts, as well as local governmental bodies. And then I tweeted back, not a single government on earth is legitimate. The Cabal is totally corrupt and is being removed by a critical mass peacefully. And this links to information about how the bankers caused the United States Civil War. I asked for suggestions on this segment the day before it was recorded. That's actually yesterday. Twit Talker requested Trump is being bankrupted by you. It's in the best interest of this country to know the truth in history in the making. You're an outstanding citizen for us and the world. Thank you. And then I tweeted back, that was last night, giving you the documents proving each and every statement, also about the bankruptcy of the United States federal government in 1933. And if you can stop scrolling, let me just speak about what happened. There was, you can imagine, there's been a lot of response to this information. And I've put some of those responses back. So really, one of the things that you ought to notice is the fact that the things that I'm telling you about Donald Trump being an imposter, he's not responding. He has nothing to say about it. It's just other people that are speaking for him. That says it all. He is an imposter. He's not the real president of the United States. Okay, now let me go back to what I had scripted in the teleprompter. Katie had some advice for me about the last segments. Karen, I really enjoyed your live version and the being able to see you behind the desk. You just seem more real that way, even though I know very well you're real anyway. The mind control attacks are very real, and I'm realizing that I'm susceptible to them. Your comment about music really piqued my interest. Do you have suggestions of good music or music to avoid? I tend to love classical and opera, along with singers and songwriters or folk music. Can you do an episode on this topic or put out a suggestion first? I know you're very busy, but I do believe that this is critical. It seems the more you know, research, or learn, the more you get zapped. I think autoimmune issues are strong with that, but also my speech and thinking and memory can be affected. I appreciate what you do. I had to smile when you described yourself as cantankerous, because I've thought that about you many times, but deeply respect it. I'm very similar and always was that way, even in childhood. Again, thank you, thank you. I see the sound and attacks on the last few episodes, and I know it was crazy and the live version, but I stuck with it and was glad I did to watch you speak extemporaneously. You're very personable. That way it feels like you're talking over coffee with an old friend. Anyway, love to you. Keep the great work up, Katie. And I'm going to follow Katie's advice to speak extemporaneously now about the rest of the teleprompter. Well, so that's what I'm doing. And I think people are more convinced when I do speak extemporaneously. I think it's a habit I have. I tend to be able to just speak off the top of my head. I don't always make perfect sense, but I do want to address you individually, and it's not easy to do that via DCTV, and then having YouTube with all the problems with the sound that we have. The best way, actually, is for you all to be discussing these things among yourselves, and that's really what has to happen. The person who had suggested, I guess it was, I can't remember his screen name, but anyway, that person who asked me to talk about Donald Trump's bankruptcy, that was a very good suggestion, and I'm very glad that I took it, because it's something that you can prove. You can prove very readily, And that is the case. Donald Trump is not the real president. We have the military had thought that they were going to be in a dictatorship, but that's no longer the case. We've interrupted that. And we're now in something called interregnum, which is to say that we're going to reconstitute our government. We're going to go back. The way we can do that is via an Article 5 conference. But there's an organization that's trying to do that that's actually, it's been hijacked by the bankers. So we're going to have to do everything from the grassroots up. And we have all the time in the world because, as I said, the military powers of the world aren't there in control. That's why the Marines landed on Langley in Virginia 2 years ago. And it was really an eye-opener when I saw that incredibly advanced military plane hovering over my neighborhood. That really, when I'm living with these things I'm telling you, sometimes it's hard, even for me, when I've been working for years and years fighting the bankers. It's hard to actually understand what we're talking about. That reality is that it's all up to us. And when I say it's all up to us, we have to recognize what the situation is. And it's not that easy for people to think for themselves. Let me talk a little bit about what we were talking about with the normalcy bias. When everybody, for years and years and years, all believe something is the case, it's not easy to understand, even when you think logically, that that's not the case. And that's the whole point about a critical mass. It's been taking a very long time for enough people to be convinced, and one of the reasons that it takes so long is because our thoughts get scrambled. And when you understand about this military weaponry, the scalar weaponry, and you're fighting all the time to keep your thoughts straight, and you have a train of thought, and then it evaporates somehow, and you understand that that's because you're fighting the scalar weaponry. And in the last segment, when I started coughing and I had this tickle in my throat, I'm reasonably sure that that was also scalar weaponry. But the thing about it is that when you're cantankerous and you have a mind of your own and you want to do things your own way, you do ultimately find a way to do that. And it really does get to be a lot easier as the critical mass interacts. We're going to go, as they say, from strength to strength. And the fact that that we've had all these episodes, the fact that YouTube tried to take them all down and they went all right back up, that shows you that the banking cartel is really, it's on its last leg. Now, how long this is going to take, we really do not have a choice, because either we resist the banking cartel and we clean up our currency, or we all perish through World War III. But the fact that we know that that we do have this coalition, the coalition is very real. And when you recognize what happened with the information from the Ukraine, and how they realize that they're better than anyone, that their government is just totally corrupt, and it really is up to them. And everybody is going to be working at the same time. Every single country is going to be working at the same time in their own way. So this there's no way for the banking cartel to continue, and I do expect that they're going to continue to resist. And the thing about that is that just it firms our resolve. It teaches us how to resist. And when I was actively fencing, I realized that the best way to be a better fencer is just to continue to resist, to continue to fight. And so when I was talking about the advice to give some more information about how Donald Trump is bankrupt and what the commercial liens are, when we've that's an old legal device to show when somebody has harmed you, to get relief from that. And Donald Trump has certainly harmed us. And so when we realize that, yes, Donald Trump is just a bit play actor, and everyone sees that, well, he's where's he going to go? It's something that's going to continue to snowball. How long it's going to take us? Well, I don't know. I have no way of knowing. But I do know that it's only going to go in one direction. We're not going to back down. Once you know something, and once a critical mass knows something, it's there. And so we're just going to continue to resist, and we're going to ultimately take our world back. There's no way around that for the banking cartel. And the fact that the banking cartel is going to continue to resist, well, that's just going to strengthen us and teach us how to resist. So that's basically the main message that I have for you. I didn't make notes for other things to talk about. I suppose we can talk about what it's like to learn to resist the scalar weaponry, because that's something that you learn. You realize that people that you don't like for one reason or another, and then all of a sudden you almost involuntarily feel as if they are somebody that you want to get to know. Well, this kind of ping pong, when you know there's scalar weaponry, then that accounts for it. And so you get even more on guard when that kind of thing happens. And again, I'd like to talk about music. There are all kinds of things that you can do to practice in regaining control. And the thing about music is it has a tempo, and so you end up putting things together. And you also notice when something's missing in music. You do know when something's missing. So I had told you that I was pretty heavily attacked on the 8th of June, and in trying to regain the control over my cello playing, that exercised my brain, and that showed me the weakness that I had, and it gave me it pinpointed what I had to do to regain control, and so music is actually it's not just entertainment or things that we do because they're fun, but it's actually it's a very strong way to it helps you be stronger, and in your mind as well. And I believe that other people have noticed when they're trying to recover from Alzheimer's, they recognize that music is one way to help them not lose it. So that's one of the topics that I wanted to talk about. But the other thing is that we're all going to be resisting and learning how to resist, and we're all going to be interacting with each other. That's another way to regain control, because the emotions are true emotions. Well, we recognize when we're being attacked by mind control, because the emotions that you have, you really do recognize when they're genuine. And so, for example, in 2014, I had to discern who my friends were, and that was how I did. Until next week, I'm your host, Karen Hudis. It's my privilege to make sure humanity keeps our wealth, our true wealth. That's our nature. We're much more loving and peaceful than we actually know. We've been alienated from ourselves, and we've been alienated from each other. We're learning how to fix the corruption in our money, and we're taking another look at our basic understandings and relationships as well. As the truth comes into sharper focus, we have a lot to be thankful for. Peace be with you.